Good evening, everyone. My name's Adam Patterson. I'm currently the head of elementary school at the Australian International School. Next year, I'm moving into the principal role, which is really exciting for me. So, welcome everyone. We'll have a bit of a chat about me, about what I think about the role and the school. And if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, and we can talk as we move along. Let me just move through to the next slide. I've been working internationally. I think come September, it'll be 30 years I left Australia. So I was born and raised in Australia. I went to university in Australia, my qualifications. But then when I finished university, I went to France and I was teaching English in France. My original idea there was to do that for a year and then go back to Australia, do my country service, and start my career as a teacher. As we know in life, things don't always go as planned. And 30 years later, here I am in Singapore. In between, I moved to China, to Kuwait, a few years in the United Kingdom, and 2 stints in Malaysia, which we absolutely loved. While we were in Malaysia, my son was born in Penang, and when we were in China, my daughter was born in Shanghai. My wife is from the UK, so we are a true international family. So spending 30 years working internationally has been fantastic. Each country, each school, each year has really brought something different to myself and my family, both on a personal and professional level. I've had the privilege to work and live with many, many wonderful people from all corners of the earth. And I really do see that as one of the huge benefits of an international education. You get to meet people, you get to meet people from different cultures, you realize a different perspective. And 30 years, my big takeaway is that people are generally good. People are there to help you. I've lost count of the number of times that I've been in a situation where someone who's local in that country has come to my aid and to help me. So I really do feel privileged that I've been allowed to work internationally for this long. My family, likewise, have incredible opportunities. My children have grown up as citizens of the world, which has really helped them as they start to move into adulthood. I'll try not to talk for too long, but please, if you do have any questions, pop them in. Here I am, my journey at AIS. I arrived in AIS in Singapore in 2016. I'd come from Brazil. My family and I were working in Rio de Janeiro at the British school there, where we had an incredible time and worked with some wonderfully passionate educators, one of whom has come here and is working with us at AIS, which is another one of the benefits of working in many countries and many schools around the world. You make wonderful contacts and you keep those contacts for life. The opportunity to come to AIS and to be head of early years and to be a part of designing and building and starting the early learning villages is something that I will never get to experience again. The world's largest early years centre, state of the art, designed from the ground up from day one with the child in mind. So to be a part of that was a fantastic experience. And one of the things that was really great was from the architects to the project management to our parent group Cognita, decisions were made based on what was right for the children. So they came through the academic team. So myself and my team, we had a really big input into how the early learning village was designed and built and the impact it was going to have on children. For example, the community spaces we have on level 1M, there's a large number of rooms which are community spaces. And we made those double sides. We made them with easy access and really light so children can really come and go as they please. Another area was the playgrounds. We wanted playgrounds to be exciting for children. We wanted them to be challenging for children. So the educators got together and we worked with the designers to build playgrounds that were challenging, were open-ended, and would grow with the children. So the wonderful thing about the early learning village is it actually grows and changes with the age of the children. So it was fantastic. Hi, Matt. How are you going?
Hello, Adam. It's wonderful. My Wi-Fi is here. And I just hear you talking about the early learning village and your journey to AIS. Tell us a little bit more about when you were we've got some amazing platforms up there. What's your favourite part of the Early Learning Village?
The rooms are incredible.
Yes.
The rooms are, again, they're designed for children, and one of the really unique features, which is fantastic, is that every room has an outdoor space. On some levels, those outdoor spaces have inbuilt sand pits. So they've all got water. So you go outside the classroom on a child-side store, and you have a balcony which is open to the elements. So what's really cool is when the children are sometimes eating their lunch out there, then there'll be birds down there. There'll be butterflies coming in. When it rains, bits of rain come into the outdoor balcony area. So the children get that full sensory experience. But that opportunity to play outside while you're still inside is a really unique feature. It's definitely one of my favorite features of the ELV.
I was just talking to James the other day about the ELV, and I didn't realise that even the roofs are UV protected. They've got the outside play space, but those big plastic roofs actually provide a sun protection for the kids while they're out there, which I thought was it's a phenomenal space, isn't it? Now, you design this, and then you set up the beginning of our early learning. What did you think? Because you were the first head of the school over there when we moved, so you had an opportunity to design the curriculum as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we wanted a curriculum that we had a wonderful opportunity. Like there was a solid curriculum in the early years on AIS and the main campus. The older years used the primary years program. We use the Australian curriculum along with that, and the younger years, we're using a version of that as well. But we had an opportunity to moving into like a state-of-the-art, world-class building that was built from the ground up for children, to have a look at our curriculum and re-look at our curriculum and build our curriculum from the ground up so that it was best in class for our children. So we had a real focus on what we believed and what we thought a Reggio approach was. And the Reggio approach worked beautifully with the PYP and the Australian curriculum. And with our younger children, it was just a wonderful, perfect start to school. But all the way from our children in infant care, which is 2 months of age, all the way up, they have the Australian developmental standards and curriculum. So the teachers have these standards going up, but we build it around, and Miss Aromi, who's the head of the early years now, says it's beautifully, we build it on the principle of love, care, respect. So everything we do with the students, whether it be teaching about maths, whether it be learning social skills and things, it's built on those 3 principles of love, care, respect, which just every time I come here, it blows me away.
Now, you did such a terrific job of that. I know that some people knocked on your door and they said, Adam, we'd like you to do something else somewhere else. Can you tell us about this next step in your journey and what you liked up there?
Yeah, I do. Look, I love a project. I love new ideas and new innovations, and you meet wonderful people while taking on these projects. So our parent group, Cognita, which we have 14 schools across Asia, and we've got 80 schools worldwide, which is one of the real benefits of working in an education group. You really do have opportunities to use your expertise and use your skills in other areas. So they acquired a group of preschools in Hong Kong. So there were 8 preschools, the Woodlands Group, really well-established family-run business. And after a little while, they were having a bit of a think, okay, we might need just to have a look at some of the transition of this group from a family-run business into our education.
Right.
But I had the opportunity to go down there a few times and lead some training for the teachers down there. Incredibly passionate early childhood teachers. And then the opportunity came up to do the managing director role down there for, it was about 8 months. So I traveled back and forwards from Singapore, but again, incredible people, passionate about early childhood, really keen to learn and to share what they know as well. So I learned as much, I hope, as they learned while I was down there.
It's certainly a quality of your leadership, Adam, that you certainly, from all the people that I've talked to, and I've had the joy of working with you myself, is you like to work alongside people, not above them. And I think it's a real sign of a true leader. Now, listen, we managed to entice you, though, back here. There was a wonderful position as the head of our elementary. Can you tell us about that and your journey back and what you've been doing for the last 2 years there.
Yeah, wonderful, and just look, a wonderful opportunity. The head of elementary position became available as the incumbent was moving back to Australia, which was again another great opportunity to try something a little bit different. I was very familiar with elementary education because I've been leading schools for quite some time and teaching in primary schools for quite some time, but a wonderful opportunity to walk into a school, a primary school of 1,300 students. Of some of our year levels have got 10 classes in them, which may seem huge and big, and people go, "Well, that is big." But our whole primary school system, it's all built around pods. So within the pods, the year 2 pod or year 5 pod, they're in a self-contained unit, so they really work closely together. But what I really found like fascinating and wonderful for me as well was you've got this a large number of highly trained, passionate educators, and when you get a group of passionate, really keen primary school teachers together, the world's your oyster. Some of the ideas and discussions we've had around teaching and learning, or how we can continually to improve and push that barrier of primary education. I've been blessed to work with these incredible educators who never stop still. They never stand still. They're always looking at how do we make this better for our students? How do we make this better for ourselves as teachers as well?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure, Adam, over a couple of weeks or over this year actually, to do into the classrooms with a number of your teachers from the elementary school. And one of the things that really came through is the use of, we talk about the use of technology, and it can sound nice in this, but you guys are really taking some things to the next level. And there was even some conversations about artificial intelligence. Can you talk us through your journey and what you're exploring and some of the technology that you're using and that you've helped bring into the elementary school?
Yeah, sure. Again, we have the passionate educators who are constantly looking at what's the best research around there or what's working really well, and then bringing it back to have the conversations about how we can use that at AIS and in our classrooms. And it was driven a little bit by some home-based learning over the last previous years, and what different tools do we need to ensure that our home-based learning is giving the children the same experiences they would have in the classroom. So something we were looking at was using artificial intelligence, using adaptive questioning platform. So we looked at a couple of different platforms and we trialed some different platforms, and we've been using Freckle for a while now. And what we've found, it's actually Dr. Brady Klein, who's an assistant head, and he's been driving a lot of this program. He sent me through some information today around spelling. So look, traditionally when we went to school, you did your spelling test, and it wasn't, you did it because you had to do it. And yes, teachers would keep a note of like 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or 3 out of 10. Using the adaptive questioning platform with the artificial intelligence is that the students are doing individual activities where they're practicing, and they're also getting some activities on there where they're getting some instruction, and they're doing this all through the iPad, using that as the medium. But it's adaptive. So if the children are getting words incorrect, then they're given a word at a lower level that they still need to learn. If children are getting words correct, they're giving a word at a higher level. And then they're getting it and being put into a word study approach, but also put into language, into paragraphs, into phrases as well. So all this is happening while they think they're playing games, and they can also move off, and they're getting instruction and they're getting practice. All that information, every single click, every single answer is sent through to a dashboard for the class teacher. The class teacher has all this information that really pinpoints what a child knows how to spell and use, and then also what they need to do next. So the class teacher then is using that information to target the students and to spend the time teaching them. And this is what we say, Matt, and we said this for years. We have incredible teachers. We want them spending time teaching students, building relationships with children, giving them feedback. We don't want them spending time administering tests to collect data. This is all being done by the platform. We're getting all the benefits from it, and our teachers are getting more time to spend teaching the students what they need to know.
That was something that really resonated with me. Coming from the teaching background myself, you did right. So the children are getting instant feedback. There's no downtime. They're immediately getting a task that's a little bit harder. It's doing that part for us. But then the teacher, it's still not doing the teaching part. The computer's not doing that, or the program. The teacher then can work on the direct acts of teaching, which I found it fascinating, and I thought, what a great way next. And I always, I know we've used iPads and things like that, and a number of different applications on iPads, which has always been terrific. The next thing, when you and I have had chats before, we've talked about the elementary school at our school is special because it is. You talked about the size. What is the advantages of having an elementary school, a school of scale, what we call a school of scale, so big? What are some of those things that we get for our students?
It is special. My first when I first started teaching, I was teaching English in France to students of similar age of myself, which was a whole learning experience there as well. And my first primary teaching was in inner London. So I was teaching in inner London for 3 years. I was a primary school teacher. So I taught music, I taught PE, I taught art, I taught drama when we could roll it out a little bit. I did the lot. And as a primary school teacher, you're trained to do that. The benefit we have here in a school with a larger scale is we have specialists to teach a lot of these programs.
Right.
So the class teacher, the homeroom teacher is still the number one person for the students. But we have a specialist teacher for PE, for music, for art, and for Mandarin. So you have teachers who are passionate about their subject and passionate about delivering it to elementary age students, and to really develop that passion and lifelong love of learning for music or for art or for PE or for learning a second language in their students. So we have these teachers who do this and teach our children, and they are specialists in that field. So no matter how wonderful, or how I did in my, I majored in PE and drama at college, like all my friends did, how wonderful I thought I was in PE or in music, a specialist teacher, so much better. So we really have that advantage here.
And it's funny you just say that, because we've just literally this afternoon, we had the pleasure of having Simon Hughes, the head of music in the secondary school, speaking to us with also the other music specialists. And they were talking about, and he was talking about the program all the way from elementary, all the way through to secondary, which is wonderful. And you're dead right. They're experts, absolute experts in their field. So our children from prep are getting a music specialist, incredibly qualified to be doing that and engaging. And I'm pleased our school invests in that creative space. I know also we had Theo, your head of art, here, and Theo's doing curriculum design for the IB. It's pretty
incredible. You walk into his art studio, and that's another thing. The spaces. So our students, they have art studios. So whereas we would be, you might have a sink in your classroom and you put some newspaper down on your tables to do some painting. They go into an art studio, and depending on the age of the child, it's built for their age and for their development. And as you said, Theo, his curriculum design is incredible. And as the leader of the art department, and we have the same for music and Mandarin and for PE as well, they also are involved in the weekly planning with the class teacher. So when you have your collaborative planning, you have your class teachers there, but you also have your specialist teachers. So they're all talking about what the children are going to learn, but more importantly, the children's learning. So they're talking about the children's learning in music, and then having a conversation, well, how does that differ in mathematics?
Right.
And you've got these professionals having these conversations, and sitting at the back and just watching, I'm just, the pride would just shine out of me, because it's an incredible experience when you hear these educators talk about learning and talk about the teaching of children. It's incredible.
I can certainly support everything you're saying there, because every time we've had an into the classroom with one of your educators, and we've had all of these people, Brady, Theo, Angela, I have been blown away by their expertise in their special fields. But let's go back to you though now, Adam. We're moving from head of elementary. 2022, you are our whole school academic principal. That's a big shift. It's a fantastic opportunity for you. Can you help the audience understand the role of a principal in a school of our scale and size, and how you see that role?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
And we talk about AIS as a school of opportunity. It's one of our core values, opportunity, not just for the students, but also for the staff who work here. And if I look at my journey and what I've learned and the leaders I've worked with as I've moved through, I'm really excited about the principal role. The principal is the person who's in charge of teaching and learning across the school. They don't have to know everything. They don't have to do everything, because they have incredible sub-school leadership and education teams. Yes. So when we talk about a sub-school, it's the early years, it's the elementary, and it's the secondary school. So we have 3 sub-school teams, which are led up by their own heads of school as well. But the principal, I really see as the link between those 3 schools. Right. So the principal is the critical friend, and we're having those conversations constantly at AIS. We do it very, very well. We have honest conversations, and I'm going to drop our CEO, Michael Drake, in here, because one of his things that he said right from the beginning, and a lot of our teachers repeat as well, is if you love someone, and we should all love each other and how we work together, then you need to be honest with them. So we have those honest conversations. So I really see the principal as the link between the sub-schools, the critical friend, but also that old person who's ultimately responsible for the teaching and learning from infant care at 2 months of age all the way up through HSC and IB when the students are matriculating and going off to university.
I think that leads us on quite nicely to this one then. And so you've explained to the audience that the principal is a person who links our 3 heads of sub-school. And we've got 3 terrific heads of sub-school that you've got there. And I know Emma is moving into your current position, who's another fantastic educator. When I've talked to you, you've got a real glint in your eye about this. You're excited about the future, and you talk to me about the word possibilities. And can you frame this up for the audience? I have to ask you to be quiet sometimes, because you get very excited about this. But we're looking ahead, 2022, possibilities. You're the principal of Australian International School. Talk us through this beautiful image and your ideas.
And you're right. You get a group of educators together, then it's very hard to get a word in. So please, if I start to go on, please bring me down and tell me to be quiet. And I love that. Like, what brings you most joy at school? Yeah. And at AIS is about possibilities. It's possibilities for everyone. I was sort of speaking to you this afternoon about what brought me joy today was. I was doing slip and slide with the year 3 class. So I teach a year 3 class on Thursday mornings, and it was their slip and slide time. At the time, so much joy. We're children laughing, having fun. Now, not so much. I'm a little bit old, I think, for slip and slide. I'm a little bit stiff and sore. But the possibilities at AIS, I think if you're at a work environment where I come to school and I really genuinely enjoy coming to work every day, because the possibilities are limitless for our staff, but also for our students.
Right.
And it's that idea that they can do anything. And we're building this and working with them about you can do anything. And we will provide opportunities for you so those possibilities can come true. And that image I love. Like, it's a huge big sky with many, many stars, but the possibilities are limitless. We will provide support for you. We'll work together with you and your family, but we can go in any direction. And that's the really exciting thing. And I think, it is a fast-paced life now. Things do seem to be moving even faster, even with the pandemic and the home-based learnings and the online learnings. Things are moving quickly. We do need to be aware of this impact that it's having on students, but we also need to be along with that as well. We do sometimes have to move quickly. We do sometimes have to sit back and reflect, but we have to understand of when to do each of those things. And I think that comes back to, again, that possibilities. What are the options for our students that we can provide for them?
And it's just for our audience, it's the decision to appoint Adam as our school principal is a fantastic one and a real sign. I've worked with Adam for a long time, and I've worked with a lot of educators and some incredible people across this path. But Adam works beside people. You've got a terrific way of doing that, Adam. And you just said a couple of things there, though, that the audience should be aware of. Is you're so student focused. And I think that helps remove, for a lot of educators, we're all quite passionate, but we can go down a rabbit hole sometimes with our beliefs and our ideas, but you always take it back to the student and the possibilities for the student. And that takes me on beautifully, Adam, to this slide here, because the middle one we're going to go to first, academic outcomes. It's a driver. Course, we're a school, so we should be looking at these. But like you joked once to me, you said a lot of schools miss that, though, Matt. Can you talk us through this and your passion and ideas for us going forward around academic outcomes?
Yeah, and it seems so sort of logical, but sometimes in our busy days we can miss this, or some schools can miss it. We are at school, and there are, you go on different forums, and there are discussions around the new type of education, or the new way to sort of measure what students can do. However, that's important, and we want to keep up with the trends, and we want to be able to show all the wonderful things students can do, from micro credentials to doing industry standard qualifications while they're at school as well.
Yes.
But also, we have to provide our students the opportunity for that next step. That may mean getting the right grade they need to go to university to follow their passion. It might mean providing them with the education and the music education to develop that passion for music, then to go off and to be able to write, to compose, to perform. We need to provide those for our students, and that is all about academic outcomes. As you move through school, we do want to measure what children can do and what they need to learn more of. Otherwise, what we come back to is you just teach a one-size-fits-all to all children. We would never do that, because if you have children sitting in a class and they're bored because it's too easy, or they're bored because it's too hard, or they're all just doing the same thing, it's not right. And one of those things when we talk about academic outcomes is not just your final matriculation grades to get you into university, but as you're moving through, maybe you're in year 7 and you've reached this target for mathematics, but you need to go to that next step. And that's what we talk about when we talk about academic outcomes. The children always, and the students always being pushed to that little bit more and a little bit more, so that they're always challenging themselves and they're always improving as they're moving along.
Yeah, and I can totally resonate with that. I taught just lower secondary mathematics, and in my one class, in classes all the time, you get to year 6, 7, and 8, they can be a large variety, so they set the classes. But me and you were having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about, and this is what I do like about the way that you always look for the future and look at outcomes for students. The school last year made a move. We're looking at around reading. You were looking at ways of what best practice was around reading it. Can you talk about the university-driven, the research-based reading program that we've brought in the school, and just how you even see that growing across some sub-schools there?
Yeah, so we were looking at our reading program, and again, teachers are very reflective. So you don't just want to do the same thing year on year on year, because you have different students. There's different research comes about. There's different tools and techniques. So you want to reflect what you're doing. So we had a really deep dive into how we teach children to read and how children learn to read. So this is for our prep age students. And so after some research and looking at different programs, the team got together and we went with the Macquarie University Initialite program for our prep students. So this year we used them as a trial year level. It's a research-based program. It's based on the science of reading. And there's enough information, there's enough research around to say, if you teach children like this, they will learn to read. What we also then do is incorporate the love of literature and the love of reading by sharing stories with the students. We've had, I'm not lost for words many times, but when the the two heads of prep and Emma, who was in charge of curriculum, came and brought me the results of 2/3 of the way through the year. I was amazed that we had nearly all of our children, all of our children were reading, all of our children were writing, and where previously we had some children, I think it was at that time, previous years was about 32-ish children who were getting a bit of extra support in reading.
Right. Yes.
After doing this program for 2/3 of the year, we had 6. So it was amazing. And what really, like, reading is fantastic. But so I had a group of prep students come to my office, and they brought their writing, and that's what blew me away. Like, the reading is incredible, but the writing is a level I haven't seen in prep before. So we were amazed at the results. We always had good results, but
Yes.
we were amazed at like how we could even move this even further. And look, it is about children learning a code and learning to read. But what we're doing is we're giving them those skills so they can access information. They can access anything they want, and then the world is their oyster. And they can really access the incredible education that we offer here because they've got those key skills.
Yeah, I like that, Ed. I mean, it's right. New research comes along and new ways of doing things. And but what's great about them, and you put this in place. What's terrific about being a through school too is if we were just a standalone elementary, you'd think, oh gosh, it would be quite good if the prep could do some things. But we are actually moving that down into I know there's early lit. It's called early lit. And what my understanding is they're moving that to the early years. Is that right? They're going to do something.
Yeah, that's right. So again, as educators, our prep staff and teachers, they have meetings with the P4, the early years teachers, and they're always meeting and always talking about learning.
Yes.
They found out it and were looking and used to come and watch some lessons of the prep teachers, and the P4 teachers were saying, this is incredible.
Right.
What have you got for us? So we investigate and research, and we have the pre-lit. So they'll do the program based on the science of reading, and then they'll go into prep. And what we've done is one step further as well. We've got the programs for year 1 and year 2 because they were so successful in prep that we're going to implement them into year 1 and year 2 as well. So the whole of the lower elementary and the early years will be following the Macquarie University program on the science of reading, which again, you're opening up the world to children because you're giving them the skills to be able to access information and then also write and share information with others. It's something I'm incredibly proud of. Again, our team drove this, and the results have been incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's sort of going back to your role as principal, because like you said, is why we've got our 3 sub schools and they've got great leaders in it. We've got to make sure there's a lot of through threads that go up through our school, and these threads can be well, for one, we want the curriculum to go from early years seamlessly up to prep, and then seamlessly from year 5, which is the end of elementary, up to year 6. We want to make sure that. Another great thing that and even with going into our well-being, and I heard about, it started in the secondary school, and now I understand the elementary have got it. We've got a data dashboard it's one of these through threads now that we're going to have in the school. Can you talk us about what a data dashboard looks like and how that works from secondary and an elementary level?
Sure. Yeah, it was something the secondary school were looking at and investigating, and it came around a little bit from that idea of continuous reporting. So instead of reporting just at once a semester, it's that constantly reporting. So we started this internally, and we collect a lot of data. So we collect a lot of academic data from either in-class assessments or year-level assessments or standardized assessments. We also collect quite a bit of data on children's well-being and how they feel about themselves and feel about learning, which is really, really important. So we do a care survey which looks at children's how they feel about school, friendships, their teachers, how they feel about home, and we collect all this information. So what the secondary school done and now elementary school have done, and this will be moving into P4 as well, I was talking to James, who's the deputy head of the early years, and he's been talking with Luke, who's the assistant head of the elementary, who talks with Steve, who's the assistant head of the secondary. And you see how these roles in different sub-schools are coming together.
Yes.
It's like a Lego building blocks.
Yes.
So one starts and we move them on.
Yeah.
And they're looking at how we can do this. So we have all the information on a data dashboard, whether we're using the Microsoft or Google platform. We have academic information. We have well-being information.
Right.
And we have also, from some of the standardized assessments, looking at potential as well. So what we have now is in front of a teacher, I pull up my dashboard and I've got all this information here together. So when I'm thinking about my students, or when I'm talking to other educators about my students, I'm going, well, their performance in mathematics was not great this last semester.
Right.
And we've then got more data points to have a look at. I can have a look at their wellbeing, their care survey, or their AIS tracker, which looks at approaches to the learning and what students think about learning. And I can have a look and think, are there any issues in there that may be causing this student not to perform academically well or to the best of their ability? Because they may be struggling with friendships, for example. That's one that comes up a little bit in lower secondary.
Yes.
Struggling with friendships, struggling with acceptance, and then that's possibly having an impact on their academic performance. The term that secondary use, which is beautiful and we use across the school, is academic wellbeing. And I think they've got that. Our secondary school have led the way. And as you said, the benefit of an all-through school, they've led the way. It works perfectly in elementary. It works perfectly in early years as well.
And you talk very casually about this, but just for the education world, this is world leading. This is and to the point, like you've talked before about us being part of a schools group. The Cognita Schools Group have recognised this as excellence, a standard of excellence, and now that they're looking at other schools copying and looking at this. But when I was talking to Steve too, like it is amazing that we've got this in place, because he said it's identified several students that are, what we could say, and I say it carefully, but underperforming compared to their potential. We know their potential. We know how good they should be. And we've identified them through these dashboards, put programs, got them to counsellors, got conversations going. And like you just said beautifully, they get to flourish because they're happy at the school. Oh, I'm going to go next now, and I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. Like, we've talked about a lot of the good things. What are some of the challenges you see going forward? Like with 2022, you can speak specifically about what's right in front of you. What do you think some of the challenges are for a big school of scale that you'll be leading into 2022?
Yeah, it's and we do think about this quite often. I'm a very, very positive person.
Yes.
But I also like to plan for worst case scenarios as well.
Yes.
So we like to be prepared. AIS is, what are we next year? We're 27 years old. 29 years old.
29 years, yeah.
We're a well-established school, which
Yes.
is fantastic, and that's very reassuring to me, and reassuring to me as a parent as well. My daughter's going into the final 2 years of school. We're a well-established school. But one of the sort of areas, and I think educators around the world think about this, and we definitely talk about it at AIS, is external factors beyond our control. And the perfect examples are, is the pandemic. But beyond that, it's also about the what different situations different countries take, or which countries open up. So can we get as many students into Singapore to experience an AIS education as before? And we've talked about the benefits of scale. And we are a large school, but we're a large school that also feels like a small school, like a country school, if you know what I mean, just because of the community and the way we interact with each other. So continuing that benefit of scale, but also around like the how our community feel.
Right.
It has been a hard 2 years.
Yes.
And I was talking to a parent the other day, and we were talking about some of the wonderful things that have been happening in the elementary school, and she didn't know that because we can't have parents on site. And the beauty of an education, whether it's early years, elementary or secondary, is that involvement of the parents. And that actually, you see that more in international education, in my personal experience. And it's so important to have that whole community on board. everyone benefits. And it has stopped, and it stopped. Like normally in education, things sort of phase out or phase in, whereas this was like this stopped,
Yeah.
and then we've all of a sudden had to react, and we've made some good measures to try and help. It's not the same, and that is a worry of mine.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing you. And everyone watching this has come from around the world that's also been affected by the pandemic, and education, especially schools have been shut. Entry onto sites is limited. Where we're putting in safe management. Everyone understands that, and it has brought a lot of challenges. You know, it's our being on site is what we call our AIS secret sauce, and we're quite proud of our little secret sauce. It's like you say, it's a wonderful Australian background, the caring, the values, the friendliness, it's special.
We've talked about that before, and it's like, and look, when I talk with parents, and they might be moving countries, and they're going to look at schools, and I say, well, we'll look for this, and this is sort of like how I define our secret sauce. It's look at when two students are interacting with each other. Is it respectful? Is it fun? Look at how the adults talk to the students.
Yeah.
Is it respectful? Is it fun? Is it reciprocal? So look at those points of interaction, and for me, that's what whenever I walk around a school, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm looking for that mutual respect, but also the fun and almost just the enjoyment of interacting with each other. That's what I sort of class as our secret sauce.
And it's wonderful you say that, Adam, because that is a terrific point of view. Because if people could say things like it's the amazing facilities, or it's what we've got to offer here and there, and the range of things, but you did right. The relationships of the people, and how much the children are enjoying being there, and especially you can notice this in a secondary school, right? Because that's when teenagers can be indifferent in their social views and all these sort of things. You want to see how they relate, don't you? You're a father of two teenagers yourself. You've been through all of this before. It is terrific, isn't it? What about, listen, and I know one thing that we have, there is getting staff in, there is movement, there is families moving in. How do you find it for the families coming in this pandemic, and are there things the school can do to help them?
Yeah, and it's really important, that transition in and out of school.
Yes.
I mentioned at the beginning, I feel blessed to have worked internationally in many different countries and continents, but it does mean we have had to transition in and out. My children have never lived in Australia or the UK, where my wife is from, and we've moved around a lot. So we as a family have really focused on this. Actually, my wife took so much on that. She did her master's in third culture children and transitioning in and out of school. So I do tap her quite a bit when I'm talking with parents and with staff. And it is about making sure that you are very conscious of arriving in a new place, and then also when you're leaving, not just your logistical things of getting the house survey and getting your tickets, but also taking that time to step back and think all the wonderful things you're really grateful for that you experienced in this place. Or if you're coming into a new place, what am I really excited about? Why am I really grateful for this opportunity? But being really intentional about that, because we can get really wrapped up in, look, is it a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container? Have I got the children into school? What am I going to do with the dog?
Yes.
We can get really wrapped up in that. So that idea of moving in and out, I was, if we're talking about concerns, when we started our recruitment process this year, I was a little bit concerned, because there's a lot of jobs going around the world, and there's not as many teachers as before. It's a bit harder to travel, and if you're mainly reading the press and certain kinds of press, it can be a little bit depressing. So we thought we might not get the standard of teachers, or the number of teachers we wanted. We went a little bit different. We did a virtual job fair plus our normal recruitment. I was again amazed with the standard of teachers who just came to our website because they'd heard about AIS and they heard that it's a good place to work. So the standard of the teachers we got from around the world was incredible, and we've picked up some really fantastic educators, all a little bit different to our educators we have now, because we want diversity. But the standard and just the sheer joy of wanting to work with children big ticks, which is we were really impressed with our recruitment season this year.
And that is a wonderful point to bring out. We do attract extraordinary staff. We've got a fantastic reputation worldwide for the teaching and learning. We've had some large PD events that our schools held, and people have come along to those, and we certainly are experts. So I'm going to pause here, Adam. What I'm going to say to the audience, because this is an interactive, it is an interactive webinar, and the point of that is that people can ask Adam questions, and I want to make sure that they've got an opportunity to be able to ask away, and we've got about 10, 15 minutes left. So if any of the audience has direct questions to Adam, please feel free to tap away into the comment bar, and I can relay those to him. So feel free to write there. While we wait for that, Adam, I think one of your what you've beautifully highlighted and why you were appointed as part of the position is you have lived international curriculum, you've lived international schooling, you've lived an expat life, which is essential. What advice would you give to people when they are moving, coming home or going back? What's something that one little takeaway before I've got a couple of questions there for you, but one little takeaway that you'd give them in preparing their children, maybe?
Sure. I think it's about including, especially if you're coming as a family, including the whole family in that. Sometimes you might not have any choice about the decision because you're moving for work, but including the whole family in the approach and in the process. So you're sharing with them online of what the school might look like or what the country might look like, what we might experience as we come through into the airport. So really including the whole family, sitting down at night when you're having dinner over night time and have that open family conversation. This is where we're going. This is what we've got to look forward to. We know we're leaving behind friends and family, but we're not leaving them forever. We're just moving somewhere else, and we'll still be in contact, and you'll still see your best friend all the time. It might be during holidays. It might be online. But you're going to learn so many things that you can share with your best friend back home. I think that's really important. Is just because you're leaving a country doesn't mean you're leaving those people. And we've experienced that from of 30 years of travel and mixing and working in different countries. I've got friends from around the world. You don't leave them behind. You're just leaving the country behind.
I think that's terrific. And I think that involving the children in it and talking is a terrific little lead. I've got a question here from Sarah. She's asking, good question. Do you have, we talked about this, so I know what might have triggered this. Do you have specialist teachers in all grades?
Yes, we do. So all the way from early years, all the way up through elementary and secondary, obviously is a specialist program, as most secondary schools are. We have them all the way through. So we have music and Mandarin and PE in the early years. Miss Catherine, who does the music, and she does dance and drama with it as well, is incredible. She is a true expert, and the children love coming down to Miss Catherine and doing either music or instruments or dance or when we're allowed to, doing singing as well. They are fantastic. And even though our infant care doesn't have a set program because it's a long daycare model, it's all about care. Our early years specialist teachers still go up there. Miss Naz, who does specialist PE and outdoor education, she goes up into the infant care with the babies and does some work with them around physical movement and around outdoor education, some sensory work as well. So we're so lucky with the caliber of our teachers, and especially our specialist teachers.
Yeah, it is something that I talk about, and people say, oh, it's a big school. And I said, there's massive advantages of a big school. There is, in the school of scale, allowing, but it's not only specialist teachers that we have. Can you talk about some of the other specialists, supporting roles, counsellors, health, that we also have? So I think people miss that, and they don't quite understand the educational
They do, and I experienced this today actually, because we did slip and slide, and one of your boys in year 3, he was getting changed in the change rooms afterwards, and he didn't have his shorts, so automatically I went straight to the nurses. So the nurses keep spare clothes, so I had a pair of shorts for him, and it made me think. So our nurses, health professionals, we have 3 health centres across the school. They look after all the health needs, but like giving shorts, they also help administer and deliver the health curriculum.
Yeah.
They also do screening programs because I know as a bad parent, when my children were younger and were in Shanghai, my son hadn't had his eyes checked and hadn't had his hearing checked at the right time because we're living in a foreign country. I didn't really know how to get it.
Mm.
What our nurses do here is they provide that screening program, which is incredible. So the health specialists and nurses here, they're available to parents, to students, to staff, and they're constantly advising parents on the health needs of their families. LinkedIn.
Yeah. It is an amazing thing. And I was just Deb, who's our head nurse team of 6 or 7 nurses, like I said, 3 different stations across our school. She comes from a public health background, so she was huge on this. But even some of our nurses are triage nurses. It's not like you got. It's not a person who just wants to go and help out in the nursing. These are
incredible. And as a teacher, like I've worked in many schools where you're not often that lucky to have a nurse. So I have a medical kit in my classroom. I've got to feel kids' foreheads and then go, oh, they might be sick, they might not be sick. Whereas our teachers just teach.
Yeah,
they don't have to worry about the medical side of it. They are incredible what they do. Today we were looking at already planning for our 2022 induction for new staff, and every year we have training with our staff and look forward to what our vision is going to be for that year. We were just filling out one of the gaps was EpiPen training. So EpiPen training, our nurses deliver that to all our staff every single year. So all our staff are trained on delivering the EpiPen, noticing what to do if a child goes into anaphylactic shock. But our nurses are they deliver that curriculum, they assess our teachers, they give them the accreditation for passing that course. Again, they are an integral part of our community.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a question here from Elizabeth. Thanks, Elizabeth. Very patient while we were chatting about that. She said, how do you manage transitions of children between subschools? Terrific question. We probably won't stop Adam from speaking on this one.
I know. I will be very clear. It is quite topical now because as I said, the prep and the P4 teachers are talking all the time.
Yes.
In normal times, the P4 children come up into the prep classrooms because we've got some issues with safe management measures and what we have in place. The prep teachers are going to P4 to talk to them. They're also making videos showing what it looks like. And then there's a parent session led by our prep team, and they'll do a session for parents of what to expect into prep, because it is a bit of a jump. Yes. And if we don't intentionally look to how we can support students and families with that move, then we're not doing the best we can do, and there potentially could be issues.
Yeah.
And at the same time, what's today? Thursday, Wednesday, yesterday. See, these days are coming all into each other. The year 5 students, they spent the day as year 6 students. So they moved up and they were taught by the year 6, and they followed a year 6 timetable because we're quite unique at AIS. Year 6 is a part of the secondary school. It's a transition year for us. So they spent the day as year 6 students. I talked to a couple today. They had an amazing time. But also just being in the room, being in the corridors, moving to playtime with the secondary school, it helps them. They realize what it's like before that first day of school. Because first week is always a little bit stressful for everyone. You're excited to see your friends again, but you're also not quite sure what's going to happen. So those 2 were 2 endpoints. But what we do throughout the semester is there's conversations between educators in elementary and educators in secondary school, and vice versa in early years and in elementary. So that idea of communication, the sharing of dashboards, the sharing of some students might need a different approach when they're transitioning into a different sub-school. So we've had some children in the elementary school already be moving up into secondary school before the handover day for everyone. So we take it on an individual needs basis.
Yeah, and there's so much we could talk about. And just for Elizabeth, being a school of scale, so part of the, when moving between transitions, if you have a standalone early years, a standalone elementary and a standalone secondary, say out in those separate schools, children are most anxious because of the unknown. Whereas our children are seeing those environments every day. They're very familiar with where they're going to school, the people, that everything looks the same. So the transition is already significantly smoother because they know everything anyway. Like the year fives are actually moving up a floor. They're actually only going to the floor above them. They're terrifically excited though, Adam. And that's like, because I just talked to your two school captains because we're preparing for a webinar with them. So I had a chat with them.
They are special people.
They are gorgeous kids, aren't they? And Kate, and they were excited about their day, but they actually only went up a floor.
Yeah,
which is delightful. And
for the P4s, they're just going down a floor. Same playground, same facilities, but just down a floor.
I've got a couple of questions here from Azza. While we are, I'll read it out exactly as, and I'll see if I get it right. While we are restricted from campus, what steps could we take to share the highlights of student life? My son is in year 3 and loved the slip and slide activity today with you. Hopefully not as bruised as Adam. I wish I could learn more about his chess tournament or CCA. That's a good question. How can we help that, do you think?
Yeah, and because actually it's really topical, and I think Risha must be your son. And I've had the pleasure this term to teach 3R for half a day every Thursday. Last term I taught year 2, term before I taught prep, and the first term I taught year 5. So it's just a way to get in and see different children. We've had a great fun with 3R. But they were talking to me about the chess tournament, which is something that's only just come back in because we've been restricted from that. But with safe management measures, they can do it. But they were so excited to talk about the different phases they've gone through. And I got knocked out here, but I'm going to be going on to here. And they were supposed to be going out to have a run and play, but they were giving up their playtime to come and do this chess tournament. Their passion was incredible. So Azza, I think it's exactly, if we have to continue with these measures, we need to find ways that we can live stream. And we live stream loads of things. We've got the technology in school already. Just a matter of being organised in advance to think, okay, if we live stream this chess tournament, we look at the safeguarding and child protection and those sorts of things, which, again, we're very good at. We can then let parents know, okay, look, we're live streaming the chess tournament. And we do, these are the sort of things that in a school, we don't take for granted, but because we're a busy school and things are happening all the time, then we've also got to sort of step back and think, and this is one of my roles, I think, as a principal, step back and think, okay, what about the people outside of the school? We know these things are going on. We're doing incredible things. How do we share this with families? And that's, I think, something that we all need to, again, be intentional about.
Great. I've got some more questions coming through here, and we've got a little bit of time. Cheryl's asking, and I'll read out the question. Oops, it just scrolled up. I attended a webinar of Andre Cashin's and Dr. G's on LQ leadership, love quotient. I love this. I was wondering what unique flavour, personal twist you plan to add to the leadership team now. I know that you highly value the early years pillars of love, care and respect. Do you intend to carry these through to the whole school? Because what I've loved the most about ELB at AIS is the culture of care. I'd love to know what you will help to build the same culture across the entire school. I won't say anything. I'll hand that straight to you.
Look, a great question. And look, I think those words, that culture of care, and it's something we have embedded across the school. And you see it looks different in different sub-schools. But the culture of care is care for ourselves personally. So we look after our own well-being, care for our students, obviously, but care for each other. So being even more out front and more obvious about our culture of care. I love, care, respect. When we were looking at opening up the infant care, Rachel, who used to be the head of early years, we went off and we had a look around the world for best practice. And we found a lot, but was talking with our educators. It was that idea of love, care, respect. And I think we do see it across our schools. Yeah. We see it. It looks different in each of the phases. So I think, again, like with Steve and Luke and James getting together with the data dashboard, it's about people getting together and sharing what does love, care, respect, what does culture of care, respect look like in early years, in elementary and in secondary school, because we'll find a lot of similarities there. And if we're building, as Cheryl says there, when Andre and Eddie they were talking about that love quotient, we've got IQ, we've got EQ, but if we're not bringing it together with that love for one another, then we're missing something. So I'm really excited to get in and look to see how those ties, and Matt, you said it perfectly, the strings or the ties across the 3 sub-schools that make us AIS and make us one school. And we are very good at being one school.
Yes. And that's very true. And that's been Andre's wonderful, I could attribute bringing us together as one school as something Andre has done wonderfully well. Yeah, I am actually going to have to stop here, Adam. It's come to 6 o'clock. Me and you can talk an awful lot, and we could keep going forever, but it is 6:01. So I would just love to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining us and just being patient while I had a few technical difficulties at the start. So I'm amazed with that. And Adam, a big thank you to you. All right, you're a tremendous bloke. We are very lucky to have you at our school. I've worked with a lot of educators around the world. You are a fantastic appointment as principal to our whole school, and I really look forward to working with you, leading us into 2022 and beyond. So congratulations for your position too. I should have said that at the start for the role that you've got. I do hope that you have an enjoyable break. You work incredibly hard, and that you come back and drive us in 2022. So thanks a lot, Adam, for joining us.
Thanks, man. Thanks everyone for listening and coming along. I could talk about AIS and education for hours and days. So I'm very pleased that you actually put a stop on that, because I'll need to go home and cook some dinner. But thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyable. All
right. If everyone, you just leave for the webinar at the end. Take care. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye for now.